www.wadr.org. WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Abuja. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ghana's health minister appeals to doctors at Temal Teaching Hospital to call off strike and return to post.
We must all have the ordinary Ghanaian in mind. And so my humble appeal to my wonderful medical doctors and health professionals at Temal Teaching Hospital is that let's call off the strike and let's all regroup and strategize going forward.
ECOWAS condemns deadly terror attack in Benin, calls for regional unity. Opposition coalition in Côte d'Ivoire denounces Cham's removal from the electoral list.
Après avoir exclu par des artifices juridiques.
After having excluded President Laurent Gbagbo, Cyril Kibafori Guillem and Minister Charles Blegude from the electoral list by legal artifices, the regime in power is once again instrumentalizing the justice system.
And the Constitutional Council in Senegal rejects the interpretative amnesty law. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners within and across the sub-region. Newslink begins with some health matters in Ghana as the sector minister Kwabena Mittal Akanda has appealed to medical doctors and health professionals at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, urging them to call off their ongoing strike and return to negotiation table for the sake of patients and the broader healthcare system. Dozens of patients were left frustrated and fuming as they arrived at the hospital today, seeking medical attention only to find empty consulting rooms with no doctors inside. The striking doctors cites a hostile working environment, lack of basic medical supplies, and what they describe as an insult to their dignity by senior government officials. However, the health minister at the press conference today called on the doctors to return to the negotiating table in the best interest of the citizens.
We must all have the ordinary Ghanaian in mind that at the end of the day, we are all serving the people of this country. Let it not be said that due to the scarce resources we have at our various health facilities, the poor man, the helpless Ghanaian's life has been sacrificed. My doors are widely opened. I'm not a perfect human being, but I listen, and I'm prepared to work with everybody in the sector. I said, let's all come together. I am prepared for us to come around the table and discuss whatever we need to discuss. And so my humble appeal to my wonderful medical doctors and health professionals at Tamale Teaching Hospital is that I am the first person to take care of your interest. And therefore, let's call off the strike and let's all regroup and strategize going forward. There are some of the things we can easily do with our internally generated funds. Please, let's confront the issues as they are.
Ghana's Minister of Health, Kwabena Mittal Akanda. In Côte d'Ivoire, the PDCR supporters have clamored their peaceful march on the streets of Abidjan and other parts of the country. The march was aimed to oppose the removal of its chosen presidential candidate, Fanasio Tijan Cham, from the electoral list by the Abidjan Court of First Instance. the CAP Côte d'Ivoire, a coalition that brings together several opposition political parties, including the PDCR, denounced the removal of Tidjane Cham from the provisional electoral list. The Coalition for Peaceful Alternation in Côte d'Ivoire argues that it aids a strategy to remove a serious political opponent from the electoral process. Therefore, opponents are calling on the government for the umpteenth time to set up a framework for dialogue in order to guarantee an inclusive, transparent, and peaceful electoral election. Here is an extract from the statement of Simone Gbagbo, former president, that's former First Lady of Côte d'Ivoire and spokesperson for the CAP Côte d'Ivoire.
Après avoir exclu par des artifices juridiques de la liste électorale.
After having excluded President Laurent Gbagbo, Kiba Fori-Guillem and Minister Charles Ble Goude from the electoral list by legal artifices, the regime in power is once again instrumentalizing the justice system to block the candidates of President Tidjane Cham from the provisional list and the de facto electoral process. CAP Côte d'Ivoire denounces its authoritarian excesses, the ultimate goal of which is to eliminate candidates capable of defeating the candidates of power, wherever they may be. All this undermines cohesion and peace in our country. CAP Côte d'Ivoire demands that President Tidjane Cham remain on the electoral list unconditionally and without delay. The urgent opening of a political dialogue with all stakeholders in the elections, the establishment of a peaceful climate that can promote credible, transparent, fair elections and without violence of any kind. CAP Côte d'Ivoire appeals to the nation's vital forces and prays for peace to mobilize in order to preserve democratic gains.
De se mobiliser en vue de préserver les acquis démocratiques.
Simone Gbagbo is the former First Lady of Côte d'Ivoire and a spokesperson for the CAP Côte d'Ivoire. However, it's been noted that government had earlier supported of this protest, warning that disorder would not be tolerated. Now, here in Senegal, the Constitutional Council has rejected the proposed interpretative bill for the amnesty law after a careful revision. It had been adopted during a plenary session at the National Assembly a few weeks ago. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye was awaiting approval from the Constitutional Council before promulgating the law. Abdoulaye Hassan has the rest of the details.
For the 7 Constitutional Council judges, the amnesty law's interpretative law is unconstitutional and retroactive. This interpretative law will restrict the scope of application of a previous amnesty law. Senegal's Supreme Court continued that the amnesty law introduced a new rule allowing the prosecution of acts that had already been amnestied. This violates the constitutional principle of non-retroactivity of more severe criminal laws, the 7 judges stated. According to the Constitutional Council, applying the interpretative law of amnesty law amounts to retroactively applying a more severe provision prohibited by the Constitution and the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen of 1789. For the Constitutional Council, the interpretative law violates Senegal's international commitments, notably the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. This decision by the Constitutional Council follows an appeal filed by 24 members of Parliament denouncing a discriminatory law that violates equality before the amnesty. The government and the National Assembly, for their part, defended the purely interpretative nature of the text, seeking to clarify ambiguities in the amnesty law adopted under the immediate past administration of Macky Sall.
Abdoulaye Hassan fight that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, now in 2 days, Togo will celebrate its 65th independence anniversary. The Togolese government is planning several events to mark this occasion. However, the opposition, for its part, is organizing a public rally in Lomé to reject the Fifth Republic. Let's join Francis Boniface for more.
This rally, scheduled for Independence Day, will be the second by the opposition to denounce the regime change after the one on March 23rd. The demonstration was called by several political parties, including the National Alliance for Change (ANC), the Democratic Forces for the Republic (FDR), and the civil society organizations, including the Togo Citizens Front. David Dose is the spokesperson for the Togo Citizens Front.
We want to organize April 27, 2025 differently. This legendary event falls on the day of Independence Day. Independence marks a people's ability to regain their freedom and dignity. Deprivation can be by the colonizer or at least by the oppressor. In 1958, that's how our ancestors fought. And in 2025, I think we must also consider how we can regain our dignity after the scathing contempt we received in 2024 when a constitution we didn't want was imposed on us.
Before the demonstration, opponents of the regime change plan to hold a Muslim and Christian prayer session as well as a traditional worship service.
We want to come together as Togolese citizens, regardless of our political, religious or ethnic affiliation. And to achieve this, we will join the organizers, the ANC, the AFD, and the Renovation International at the beach on Sunday, April 27, starting at 2 p.m. Before that, of course, taking into account the schedule we've been given, there will be Muslim prayers on Friday, Catholic Mass on Saturday, and Protestant worship on Sunday.
The organizers of this rally are meeting within a recently established framework with the aim of returning Togo to the 1992 constitution. The country changed its constitution a few months ago, transitioning from a presidential to a parliamentary system of government.
Sylvie Ouedraogo's report voiced by Francis Boniface. Elsewhere, the Republic of Benin has confirmed the deadliest attack on record since violent extremism emerged in the northern region of the country. According to the Beninese presidency, more than 50 people were killed in the assault a week ago against soldiers in two towns at the trap point of Wadr, signaling Benin, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Several wounded soldiers are currently being treated in various hospitals. The government's response comes a week after the tragedy and a statement by the Al-Qaeda-affiliated group that it killed 70 Benin soldiers during the attack. As Sankule Janko reports, Cotonou is promising effective steps to tackle this security threat.
This is one of the rare times the government has officially responded to a terrorist attack against the army. According to the government spokesperson, the terrorist attack against the army a week ago left 54 dead and around 10 injured. On behalf of the state, Wilfred Leandra Haumbeji offered condolences to the families of the deceased soldiers. Psychosis must not spread among the population, declared Wilfred Leandra Haumbeji.
Every child in Benin who dies means all the families in Benin mourn. Even more so, when it involves several of them, it's difficult to talk about it. And given that these children have the courage to give their lives to defend us, we have no reason to give up.
The government spokesperson continued that the military hierarchy is refining new counter-terrorism strategies.
We don't want to lose any more children. And on that note, I can tell you that since this event, the head of state has held multiple meetings with the military high command to assess the situation and strategies with them to see which of the equipment we have ordered has not yet arrived, and in the meantime, whether there are more needs to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of our soldiers.
Last Thursday's attack against soldiers in two towns in the 3-point border area with Niger and Burkina Faso is the deadliest attack against the army since the beginning of armed group incursions in the north of the country.
Sankule Janko reporting there. Meanwhile, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has strongly condemned the deadly terrorist attack that struck Benin on April 17th this year. The regional body, in a statement, described the act as barbaric and cowardly. It therefore calls for greater regional collaboration to combat terrorism across West Africa. Christopher Atichu has the details.
The statement released today by ECOWAS expressed shock and deep sorrow at the heinous terrorist attack that claimed lives and left several others injured in Benin on 17th April. The ECOWAS President Omar Aliou Touré extended condolences to the bereaved families and expressed solidarity with the government and people of Benin. ECOWAS, through the statement, reaffirmed its unwavering support to President Patrice Talon and the Beninese authority in the fight against terrorism. It further emphasized the urgent need for strengthened cross-border cooperation, especially among member states directly affected by insurgent violence. ECOWAS further reiterated its commitment to implementing its regional counter-terrorism strategy, including operationalization of ECOWAS standby force. It also called on international partners to intensify support for national and regional efforts aimed at stamping out terrorism in the sub-region.
Christopher, our teacher, reporting there. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's Health Minister appeals to doctors at Tamale Teaching Hospital to call off their strike and return to post. ECOWAS condemns deadly terror attack in Benin, calls for regional unity. Opposition coalition in Cote d'Ivoire denounces Cham's removal from the electoral list. The Constitutional Council in Senegal rejects the interpretative amnesty law. Still ahead, we have guest interview and sports news. So please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. A project to create the Alliance of Sahel States radio station ended on Wednesday in Ouagadougou, the Burkinabe capital, where this public service media outlet is to be based. Burkinabe Minister of Community, Gabriel Ouedraogo, revealed that the headquarters of the AES radio station will be located in Ouagadougou with relays in Bamako and Niamey. It will broadcast continuously 24 hours a day, with a rich and varied program scheduled taking into account the national languages of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. According to Minister Ouedraogo, this meeting will reflect the commitment of the ISA states to promote regional integration. More on security matters. Troops of Operations Lafian Jamaat in Nigeria have recorded multiple breakdowns in ongoing banditry operations across Kaduna and Plateau states. In two separate incidents, troops from the Nigerian army neutralized armed suspects, repelled a militia attack, and made arrests as part of efforts to secure volatile communities in the country's north-central region. WADR's Usma Omar in Abuja reports.
Troops of Operation Lafi and Jama'a have intensified their operations across Kaduna and Plateau states, leading to the neutralization of 4 suspects and the arrest of 2 others in the past 72 hours. In Kaduna state, troops neutralized 3 suspected armed robbers during a weapon recovery operation. Intelligence sources revealed that they attempted to disarm a soldier and escape. The troops responded swiftly, killing all 3 suspects on the spot. In neighboring Plateau state, troops foiled a militia attack on Tegbe community in Bassa local government area. Following a distress call on Wednesday morning, soldiers engaged the attackers who fled towards Kaduna. 1 suspect was killed during a pursuit in Kauru local government area. 2 others, identified as Sani Adamu and Buhari Mohammed, are arrested. 42 stolen cows and over 20,000 naira were also recovered. However, the attack left 2 civilians dead and 1 wounded. The military says its morale remains high and operations continue across the region to dismantle armed groups and secure local communities. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has in the meantime directed an immediate overhaul of national security strategies, demanding urgent action to end escalating violence in Borno, Benue, Plateau and Kwara states. Recent attacks in the north-central region have claimed no fewer than 250 lives in the last 4 weeks. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
Let's now take you to Guinea-Bissau, where the president of the Human Rights League, Boubacar Touré, has returned home and is now free to move around. He had been hiding for a week inside the country in an undisclosed location following a violent raid of his residence by security operatives. He was wanted by the courts for allegedly spreading false information until his appearance before a court in Benin. That's Guinea-Bissau. The Public Prosecutor's Office indicated that an investigation into his allegations will continue to determine whether they are true or not. Here is Beatrice Furtado, a member of Boubacar Touré's defense team, speaking to the press after the hearing.
A audição correu bem e vamos deixar o Ministério Público continuar com a investigação.
So far, the procedure is going well, and we will continue to collaborate with the justice system. We believe that Mr. Boubacar Touré should not be arrested, but rather considered a whistleblower, and what he said about what is happening in the largest hospital in Bissau should be considered as facts that could actually be happening there. Boubacar Touré is a free citizen of Guinea-Bissau and will continue to do his work as a human rights defender within the Guinea-Bissau League for Human Rights. The justice system will continue to investigate these allegations so that we all know the truth.
Beatrice Furtado is a member of Boubacar Touré's defense team there in Guinea-Bissau. Let's now travel to Liberia, where the Supreme Court on Wednesday granted the bill of information filed by Embattled Speaker Fonati Kofa, reinforcing his authority amidst ongoing tensions within the legislative body. The court stated that an actions taken by the majority bloc of lawmakers violate established protocols. The case stemmed from a bill of information filed by Speaker Kofa, who sought the court's intervention in ongoing challenges to his leadership. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
In a ruling on Wednesday, the Supreme Court Chief Justice Sialen Yo clarified the actions of the majority bloc as a disregard for constitutional protocols. The court emphasized that neither the Deputy Speaker nor other representatives had the authority to preside over legislative sessions while the elected Speaker was present. Following the ruling, the embattled Speaker Fonati Kofa expressed relief and called for reconciliation among lawmakers to strengthen the country's governance.
The court has ruled, effectively recognizing that our leadership holds the constitutional mandate of the first branch of government, and we welcome that ruling. To our colleagues on the other side, we identify with your just grievances and call on you to join us and end the stalemate at Capitol Hill.
Legal experts suggest that this ruling may set a precedent for future disputes in the country's governance. Some members of the minority bloc view this victory as a reaffirmation of democratic principles.
You understand what the court said, Fonati Kofa is a presiding officer. Anything you do outside is illegal.
Kofa remains the speaker as long you did not go to sit under him to give him a due process.
But in an official statement, the majority bloc speaker Richard Cohn rejected the Supreme Court's judgment, arguing that it violates the separation of powers. Observers warn that the implications of this ruling could resonate beyond the current political landscape, influencing public sentiment and the stability of the Liberian government in the coming months. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This evening, we shift our attention to the takeaways from the ECOWAS summit held in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. For Wadimus, the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS, it's time for the regional bloc to make things right. Austin Agbe is Wadimus liaison officer.
Just last week, we had a convening in Abuja where we tried to interrogate ECOWAS at 50. In that conversation, which was themed reform or disintegrate, which pathway for the regional bloc? Part of what we were looking at, participants agreed that rather than ECOWAS disintegrating, ECOWAS need to reform. Reform itself, even though from the guest speaker's presentation, ECOWAS was not formed for the kind of things we are now asking the regional bloc to do. But ECOWAS has transformed itself over a period of time. So even with the ECOMOG and others, ECOWAS has transformed beyond the whole idea of the formation in 1975 to now engaging in peace negotiations, political stability and otherwise. In fact, without political stability, there can't be economic prosperity. So when people argue that ECOWAS was formed as an economic region and all of that, but without political stability, there cannot be true economic stability too. So in this, as ECOWAS turns 50, a major thing ECOWAS must do is to truly refix other arms of government to be useful. As of today, ECOWAS parliament is not useful. ECOWAS court is almost not, when I say useful, they are there, but they can't actually make intervention that stops the ECOWAS of state, especially when they take certain action. For instance, we are going to be, when sanctions on Burkina Faso and Co. came up at the heads of state meeting, the parliament was not considered. Nobody went to court to stop them. Even when cases at national level are taken to ECOWAS court, nothing comes from it. We have had cases that ECOWAS court will take a decision. For instance, in Nigeria, where ECOWAS court said that the end tax was wrong and the payment should be made. Till date, nothing happened.
Well, going forward, Ms. Austin, are we expecting to see an ECOWAS of the people?
That's the second reform that the convening in Abuja came up with. That the need for people to participate heavily in the governance of ECOWAS is very important, because the ECOWAS is supposed to serve the people. Therefore, in as much as you have ECOWAS of government, you need to have ECOWAS of the people. As of this time, it is ECOWAS of the state, which is the government, that really determine the affairs of things. And that until the people start to make intervention in what the state does, it may be a difficult route to go. And that is why reforming ECOWAS is important. This ECOWAS must reform at 50.
Austin Aigbe is Wadim's liaison officer. Up next is the latest in the world of sports with Sankule Janko, who's already in studio with me. Good evening, Sankule.
Yes, good evening, Augustine.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Give us the latest, please.
Yes, let's go straight to Ghana, because we're the CAF Football Championship, because as tournament host Ghana got off to a positive start with a hard 4-1-0 victory over Morocco in the CAF Champions League Football Championship, of course, in the under-15 category on Wednesday. Defending champion South Africa suffered a narrow 1-0 defeat to Uganda. That is in the girls category. Meanwhile, Benin labeled as 1-0 win over Malawi. In the boys category, it was the same thing for host country, because Ghana also began, of course, the same with a 2-0 victory, and South Africa secured a commanding 2-0 victory as well against Algeria. That's how 10 pounds are on the, opening day of the CAF, football championship, for senior secondary school. But in basketball, former FIBA champions, that is Nigeria, will begin their 2025 FIBA Afro Basketball Tournament in Group D alongside Mozambique, Rwanda, and the following the official draw on Wednesday. Here are the complete groupings for the tournament in 2025.
Very quickly.
In Group A, Ivory Coast will be paired alongside Egypt and Angola. In Group B, you have Mali, Cameroon, and South Sudan. And in Group C, you have Senegal, Guinea, and Uganda. And of course, as you know, Nigeria is already paired alongside Mozambique and Rwanda in Group D.
There's more to follow, Sankule, from now until the weekend for that wonderful basketball encounter. That's Sankule Janko bringing us to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudo Juf and Umundan Yogo for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.